Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be going over King of Fields 95 number 3. Now this is an incredibly important tournament for a lot of European players because it is the only European major that is happening within the ranking season. So there's a lot of stuff riding on the line for this one. Our top 16 seeds, you have Makuro, Aiken, Tarek, and Leon in 13th, Space, Super Semi, Chag, and M4E in 9th. In 7th place, you're going to have both Raflo and Andres FN. 5th place, you have Lugi and Quick. 4th place, Siski. 3rd place, Bloom Forever. 2nd place is our invader of Karama. And 1st place is Gluttony. The first player I want to take a look at is going to be M4E, and I am very interested to see how he does this bracket because he's a player that could definitely be like a top 5 caliber in Europe right now. He's a super big up-and-comer. As you can see, he only has 3 results in 2023, which is a 5th place at Glory, getting wins on Orion and Leon, and a 3rd place at Icarus, getting wins on Crepsele, Bloom Forever, and Makuro. That Bloomman is massive. Look at this. It's just a trend of going up, and I definitely think that could continue at this tournament. Now, we unfortunately don't have a ton of data against the opponents he's playing. It's just because he doesn't have a ton of reps under his belt, so I'm not super confident about how he'll do versus Raflo, or if he beats Raflo, how he would do versus Karama. Let's say he does lose to Raflo, though, and then go into the loser side of bracket. If he ends up getting Luigi, he will probably get top 8 because that matchup is terrible for Luigi. It's one of Luigi's worst matchups. I wouldn't even be surprised if Luigi went like a secret secondary we didn't know he had because the matchup is that bad. Now, Luigi definitely could just beat Siski and avoid that situation, but I also do have the faith in M4E to beat Siski, to beat Raffle. After you beat Bloom Forever, even if it is in the winner's side of bracket, you can really beat anyone, and I think M4E is a super talented player right now, a hidden gem of Europe, and I really want him to do well this tournament. I also want to talk about the 2 major invaders in this event outside of Karama, which are Chag and Aiken. Now, unfortunately, they are projected to play each other in the loser side of the bracket, and the winner side of the bracket isn't that great either. You have Aiken, who has to beat Nader Yu, which is already a pretty tough matchup, or at least I think it is for the Shotos, because Pichu is so easily able to break focus and get in your zone, and he hits you incredibly hard. But Shotos can also kill Pichu in like 2 hits, so that's always a nice thing. Then you would have Chag versus Nightox, which Politana should win, but it's always scary coming against a Lucas player, especially when you're not super aware of how good Lucas is as a character. Like, Nightox is doing some crazy stuff, so hopefully Chag is prepared for that. Then Aiken would go into Bloom, which out of everyone in this tournament is potentially the worst matchup he could have gotten, just because I would never really want to play against Bloom, and I think Bayonetta would destroy the Shotos just because of how hard it is to lock her down. And you have Chag versus Quick. Now, Chag and Quick have played 4 times. Quick won 3 of those times, but Chag did win the last encounter at Tech Republic, so there is a chance that Chag can make that upset. But what will likely happen is that they will both get sent to the loser side of bracket, where they will unfortunately have to play each other. So it's a little bit unlucky for 2 of the invaders there. I still think upsets are doable, especially if Aiken was playing like he was like way back at Genesis. When players have runs like that, it just instills a lot of faith in me for them because we know they have the potential to just pop off insanely hard. Chag as well. He's had a couple of those runs where he's gone absolutely crazy. So maybe these guys will pull off something monstrous like they have in the past and make a run here, but it's a pretty tough bracket for both of them. And the final player I want to take a look at before moving on to the top 8 is going to be Super Semi, and it isn't even because his bracket is particularly amazing from him. He has a lot of unknowns in it. Actually, his first matchup that he's never played before would be against Andres FN, and I would actually favor him here just because I think that Youngling does really well versus the FGC/Shoto characters, and Andres FN is going to play one of those 4 characters, so I think this could potentially be a good match for Super Semi that he could win. Then he would go into Gluttony, who he does have a losing record versus, which is not amazing. And then if he does end up beating Andres FN, he would go into Chag again, player he's never played. And if he ends up losing to Andres FN, he would probably go into Quick, another player that he's never played. And he is down 0-2 to Siski, so there's a lot of matchups here that aren't super amazing for Super Semi, but I also still think that he can make the upsets on them because he is such a talented player. I have a lot of faith in him. He just doesn't really go to a ton of tournaments, but when he attends them, it feels like he's always getting a couple upsets, getting into that top 8, and I think he's going to be able to do it at this tournament. So for loser sevens, our first matchup is Andres FN versus Lugi. And these guys have played twice, and Lugi did take it both times. Well, I think it is possible for Andres FN to be able to make that upset. He's been playing really well lately. I've just kind of been impressed by him in general. I also really like his character lineup of all that FGC characters, just kind of mixing them around. But Lugi does have the record there, especially after his run at Battle of BC, where even though his placement isn't super high, he just looked incredibly promising. Took Kameme to a really close game 5, and I would be favoring Lugi there. Then you get into Rafflo and Quick. Now, this one's a little bit more interesting because Rafflo and Quick, they haven't played since E-Carabiner, where Quick was able to take it. To be fair, though, that was Quick's best tournament by a mile. Like, he was farming that day, so it may be a little bit better for Rafflo this time. And there's also the factor of Rafflo has been playing a lot more Samus as of late. He's been using that character potentially as a character he's going to main, I'd say more as a co-main / secondary right now, but his Samus has been very prevalent, so he's going to know the ins and outs of the character a lot more. But also, to be fair, Palutena is a character that you don't really even need to play her to know the ins and outs. You kind of just get Palutena's basic game plan. So I think that's going to be interesting set. I would favor Rafflo more than I did last time, but the record still does go to Quick. But for this one, I'm going to pick Rafflo just because, again, I think that Samus experience is going to come in handy a big time. On to the winner's side of bracket, our first matchup is Gluttony versus Siski, and you're going to obviously favor Gluttony for here. The record is just so staggering in his favor. Siski has been able to take it a couple times, though. He looked really strong at Battle of BC. Both players were able to tie at that event, so I think there's potential Siski wins it, but it's definitely favored for Gluttony. And what interests me is Kurama versus Bloomfever, because this is going to be a banger, and I honestly have no idea how it's going to work. If I had to pick one player, I would probably still pick Bloom because Kurama's record versus Lima isn't amazing. I believe he's down 0-2 or 0-1 or something like that. And Bloom Forever is such a scary opponent to play against, especially for the first time. Now, Kurama's also one of those players that's incredibly scary to play against for the first time because he is hitting you so hard, but Bloom is able to replicate that. Bloom's neutral is also just a little bit stronger just because of the way he's playing Bayonetta. That camping style of Bayonetta gives you like a top 5 neutral in the game, up there with characters like Aegis that are known for their neutral game plan. Bayo's neutral becomes incredibly difficult, and that is the best thing about Kurama, so we're going to have to see if he's able to keep up with Bloom's neutral because it's going to be incredibly difficult. On to the loser's side of bracket. Again, our first matchup is Kurama versus Lugi, and I'm going to be favoring Kurama for this one, even though both players are hitting you incredibly hard. They have really tricky neutral. They're able to get their combo starters. Kurama just has more reps onto the stage, and I think it will favor him here. Though there is the factor of Kurama traveling for the first time. I think this is his first international tournament, so some nerves there could definitely be applied, but I still believe in Kurama to pull it out for the US because they definitely need a win right now. Then you would have Siski versus Rafflo, and as you can see, the record is actually 8-8, and looking at their last encounter at IB Games, you have Rafflo going Dark Samus game 1, it doesn't work out, then he goes Palutena, it doesn't work out, then he goes Bayo, which is actually the thing that gives him success, and then it doesn't actually work in game 4, so I'm very curious to see who Rafflo's going to go. Does he go Bayo? Does he go Samus? Does he go Palutena? Maybe he goes another character, but I also have the confidence of Rafflo that he would have had to beat Quick to get in this point in the bracket, so he would have already had to have beaten the Samus. I'm still going to favor Siski just because he has won that last 3 encounters, and I don't really have a ton of faith in the Bayonetta to be able to take an entire set, but I could be very surprised. You know, Rafflo is an incredible player and he gets better really quickly, so maybe that's something that could happen, but considering Siski's won the last 3 attempts, I'm going to go with him. In winners finals, you're going to have Gluttony and Bloom Forever, and in losers semis, you're going to have Siski and Kurama. For Gluttony Bloom, I would definitely favor Bloom for this one, even though I do believe that Gluttony won their last encounter. The record overall is in Bloom's favor. I also think that Bayonetta does better in the matchup, so I'm going to say that Bloom is able to take this one, though if Gluttony is able to beat Bloom at any point in the bracket, it would be here, because beating Bloom in the winner's side of bracket is definitely the easiest part to do it. But in loser semifinals, you're going to have Siski versus Kurama, and these guys have played 3 times. Siski won it twice, but it was at a local event, and Kurama won it the only time they played at a major, which was the most recent time, so I'm going to say that Kurama does end up taking that one, but Siski, he's clearly been able to take it in the past, so we're going to have to see how that one turns out. But regardless of how it plays, I'm really excited to see that set, how it happens, because I just love the way that Kurama deals with certain projectile characters, and Siski's one of the hardest opponents to do that against. So for losers finals, we have Kurama versus Gluttony, and I'm going to be going with Kurama for this one because even though the record is in Gluttony's favor overall, the only time that they played recently in the post-quarantine era was at LSI, where Kurama ended up winning it. Now, to be fair, he was going off super hard at that tournament, but you also had Gluttony getting a good placement at that tournament. He was clearly playing well, so I believe in Kurama to be able to get that win. And then in the grand finals, it would be him versus Bloom Forever, and I would again give it to Bloom Forever. I believe in Kurama to potentially get a set reset, but I just have so much faith in Bloom. I really think he is an incredible player. This is the biggest European tournament of the year, at least so far. It's going to be the only major of the season. It's the one that matters the most, and I really want him to perform here. And I thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Sports been absolutely unreal. Be sure to sub and all that yada yada, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.